Good. GTV, we're ready to start. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regularly scheduled Goffstown Planning Board meeting, Thursday, October 14th, 2021. As usual, we begin with identifying all the folks at the table here. We'll start with Dave.
David Pierce, alternate member.
Jim Raymond.
Karen Hughes.
Tim Redmond.
Philip Devanza.
Gayla Breck, alternate and recording secretary.
Mark Lemay, fill in for Collis Adams tonight, selectman.
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
We have two regular members that are absent tonight, so David and Gail will both be voting members this evening.
And we also have Eric with us, filling in for Sarah.
Okay, so could you please identify yourself for the record, sir?
Eric Gustafson, Public Works Engineering Department.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, we're going to do action items first. It's on page 2 of your agenda. The minutes of September 23rd, 2021. Does anyone have any corrections or changes or additions?
Motion to approve.
I have a little one. This I just want to clarify. Marked in yellow. Sorry. There's too many pages. Oh, it's on page 7. Down at the bottom, third paragraph up, Barbara asked if we need gender locker rooms. And I think she said something like gender free, or I forget the term.
Gender neutral, I think.
Gender neutral, and the chief had said, I quoted him, probably at some time, not at some time. So the not should come out in the others.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to misquote the chief, because he'll pull me over sometimes.
All right, Phil, there's been an amendment made. Any other amendments to the meeting, to the minutes, rather? Do you want to revise your motion?
Well, it wasn't seconded, so usually you second it
I'll
and then you
second
make
with
the amendment.
and ask that Phil agree to the amendment.
No, I was going to ask you to just second your amendment. So the motion's been made by Phil, second by Jim Raymond, to accept the minutes as amended. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? No abstentions. Okay, minutes pass. Next item on our action items is a request to release the landscaping cash surety bond for McDonald's. We remember that we allowed them to have a cash surety because the landscaping wasn't completed and they wanted to open. Joanne?
Yes, McDonald's had finished up their project about a month or so ago, and I went down there and checked the site, and they have completed the landscaping according to the plan, and they're all set for the release of the bond, or it's actually cash.
Now, do we have paperwork we have to deal with this?
Yes, there is it might be in your correspondence folder, but we have I have it here, now I can't find it. Oh, here. We have a approval tracking form for it. It's in the amount of $2,750.
Okay.
I move that we approve and authorize the chair to sign.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made to, any discussion on the motion? Motion's been made to accept the recommendation from Joanne that the work is completed and will return the $2,750 cash surety. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes. There's multiple, Jim, just for purposes of clarification, these tracking forms have planning board signature. There's 5 lines. Does that mean all members have to sign or only the chair?
That's why I authorized you to sign.
Okay. Good. Well, I'll take care of that.
I got one there.
Thank you.
You can sign it 5 times.
No, I can't. All right. The second request tonight is from Dakota Partners Woodland Village. Joanne, could you please elaborate on that since it's not on our agenda?
Yes, so we've been working on this since last week, trying to get it finalized, excuse me, because they're closing with New Hampshire Housing scheduled for the 20th. And one of the things that they required, New Hampshire Housing required, was a letter stating that the town was, or the building department was all set with releasing the building permits for phase 2. But in order for us to be able to do that, we needed to collect a bond or letter of credit, some sort of surety. Because the drainage for phase 1 is obviously connected to phase 2, and the building permits we would not be able to issue a letter stating they were all set unless we had some sort of bonding in place, or the work was already accomplished. So Jeremy Vieira is here tonight from the Board of Partners if you have any questions, but they did provide us with all of the detailed amounts for all of the work that they're doing.
We saw
This
the
bond
track.
will cover all of the drainage in phases 1 and phases 2, which will be built at the same time, but they're being financed by 2 separate banks, one being New Hampshire Housing, the other was Citizens Bank. And it also covers the materials and the labor and loan and the backfill to cover over the drainage structures. They're just looking for this bond so that they can close and go ahead with their work. The bond will be in the amount of $870,777. It's been reviewed by our town attorney. He is fine with the language, and Eric is fine with the amount of the bond and the items that they have included for this work. So tonight the board would need to accept and approve this bond, and then we would need the same motion to allow the chair to sign off on the tracking form.
Any questions from planning board members for staff or Mr. Vieira? And I'll go to Eric. Eric, the recommended amount is satisfactory in in DPW's opinion?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Okay,
Tim, I move that we approve the acceptance of the bond and authorize the chair to sign the board.
I'll second.
okay, motion by Jim, seconded by Karen.
Can you say as long as Phil brings back the loader or the excavator so we can play on it?
All right. So any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of issuing a surety for $870,777 to Dakota Partners for Woodland Village, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Mr. Vieira, thank you for coming in.
Did they get their sign back up?
I don't know,
Does
did you
not-
get your
we don't need to
sign
go
back
there.
up?
It's being printed right now, I don't think it's been finalized.
Oh.
So, it
Oh,
should
okay.
be up in the next week or so.
That's good.
Maybe 10 feet off the ground.
Yes, a little bit.
Doesn't matter.
Easy to wash material.
All right, the next item on our agenda is under old business. It was at our last meeting, we talked with map 33, lot 17 and 18, subdivision review for the property owned by Falcon Heights out on New Boston Road. Joanne, could you please bring us up to date on this?
Yes, so in front of you have a plan, which is titled Proposed Driveway Trench Drain Plan. This plan was provided by Mike Dahlberg, and there's also a report that goes along with it from T.F. Moran. Jason Hill wrote up a review of what they're proposing, and he's an engineer, so he stamped it and signed off on it. Eric has also reviewed it. They're not doing exactly as was asked as far as pitching it, but they have come up with another solution that everyone is on board with.
We'll let Mike go over that one when we get Mike up to the podium here.
That's where we're at with this one.
Any other information for us, Joanne?
No, that's all I have.
And as
for
far as my recollection from the prior meeting, was this the only outstanding issue that we had to deal with? We
Yes.
dealt with all the other issues on the lot, this is the only other outstanding issue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll confine our discussion to this issue then this evening. So at this time, do board members have any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll ask Mike to come on up. Eric, if you have any reason to join in, you're welcome to join us at the table. You don't have to sit in the podium in the audience by yourself.
How the first used to have those great camouflage orange bright shirts? How come they're more subdued? Who's your fashion consultant?
I don't know, you know?
Adam Jacobs.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
This is his planning board shirt.
Yes.
Okay, both of you, for the record, Mike,
Mike Dahlberg, Lance Bear.
Eric Gustafson, Public Works.
thank you guys both. Mike, the floor is yours.
So, when we met last month, the discussion was to put a trench drain of sorts on the easterly side of the proposed driveway, which in theory, we felt at the time it would work really well. But the next morning, we talked about it. We thought about how the driveway would be plowed in the wintertime. And most plow drivers aren't gonna know the trench drain is there, and it being a 10-foot driveway. They're gonna plow, push it off to the right, so the majority of the snow in the wintertime and everything would be sitting on top of the drain. We didn't think it was gonna be effective. So we pushed it to the west side of the driveway, and we have a 1.5% cross slope grade into the trench drain. And we did have Jason Hill, PE from TF Moran, do a drainage analysis to see that not only the proposed driveway would handle the flow, but the lot above it, lot 17, because the contours, that's the high point on the property. Drainage from that's gonna come, wash across the driveway and hit that trench drain. We wanted to make sure that it was functional under the 2-year storm flows, which the calculations prove that it is. The bottom of the trench drain is about 2.5 feet above seasonal high water table, not the static water table. And the trench drain is about 70 feet from the edge of the wetlands. But at perpendicular to the contours, to the resource of Bog Brook, it's about 120 feet away. So
So Mike, did you tell the board, in the outer 50, which is you're asking for relief for, is the trench drain fully in the outer 50?
yes,
And how far is it approximately from the line where the inner and outer meet, without going down to the last foot?
about 14 feet.
So it's well within the outer 50?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Just want to put that in the record.
Yes.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mike based on his presentation?
The question, as we typically ask on private properties, is to what extent is the function of this trench drain dependent on proper maintenance, and what assurance do we have that maintenance will occur? Like I said, you're the one who usually asks this question.
I know,
So,
I'm letting you,
trying to-
I'm trying to ask legal questions, you're trying to ask technical
We
questions.
don't-
Working well,
poorly, yeah,
let's
yeah.
not destroy a good thing.
Okay.
So Mike, what's going to keep this drain functioning, and maybe you can give a brief description of how it's constructed, I mean, up to grade?
So the trench is 3 feet deep and 2.5 feet wide, and it's 1 inch minus wash stone, and it's lined with filter fabric so it doesn't plug up. And the top of the trench is open stone. So you've got a 2.5 foot wide interceptor drain where the water's just gonna run in. I think the only maintenance that would need to be done would be to clean the leaves off of it and, a couple times a year.
We talked about the driveway or being paved and having salt on the driveway. If this was to remain a gravel driveway, do you think that it's gonna be problematic if they do not pave the driveway? Because we talked about salt with a paved driveway.
If you use driveway pack, no, I don't think so.
Okay. We actually classify gravel and hardtack as impervious surface.
Right,
These
so,
days.
if you just left it as bank run gravel, well, yeah, you got a serious problem. You probably wouldn't be able to drive to your house.
Well, you wouldn't put salt on it either. if
You
it
wouldn't
was
put salt
gravel.
on it either, it would be just sand.
Right.
And the driveway is so shallow that, you know, it's a 1% cross slope at 12 feet, it's an inch and a half.
I guess we'll assume, for lack of other reason, that they're obviously probably gonna pave the driveway, because it seems like all new houses get paved driveways in this day and age.
Well, we have to pave the apron onto the Bossa Road anyways,
Right,
and the plan is to pave the driveway.
okay.
Well, leaves fall off, but like I said, you gotta pick the leaves off twice a year. What's the likelihood of a landowner doing that?
Well, there are other drainage easements in town where we've recorded, put an agreement on the face of the plan and the deed. The first house on the left on Maple Ave had one.
We actually approved these, Jim, and we approved them on, for the purpose of mitigation of stormwater, we've approved them on other driveways.
Yeah, but we're in wetlands, so.
I see.
It has a heightened concern, and if the function of this depends on people raking a drainage swale twice a year, I just question whether that's gonna occur, so.
Well, it's not gonna be a swale.
Well, no, the drainage trench, I mean, no.
Mike, is it flush with the surface of the
Yes,
driveway, or
it's
is it a
not,
swale?
it's not a swale, so the leaves, stuff isn't gonna collect in there like it would a roadside ditch, you know, comes down, back, and then back up. It's flush with the ground. It's about, the top of the trench is flat, and it's about 4 inches below the edge of the pavement of the driveway. So it's really shallow. But it's flat, it's not a V, because we're perpendicular to the contours. So we're not creating a V trench of any sort.
It's also 2.5 feet wide.
Is anybody are you suggesting any kind of a remedy at this point?
Well, I wanna make sure this trench will function for its intended purpose, knowing that property owners don't put a high value on that kind of maintenance, and two, notwithstanding that we have maintenance agreements, we don't enforce them.
What is the area that this is proposed to be constructed in? Is this a field area, a wooded area? What is, I know leaves fall.
It's well-established hayfield. There is no large vegetation on any part of this lot or for about 70 to 80, 90 feet to the east. There are no mature trees at all.
Well, it doesn't prevent people from planting, whoever
Well,
purchases
no,
the
but
land to plant.
right now, there's
Yeah.
no, all those big oak trees that were overhanging the road that were a hazard in the site distance issue are gone. They've all been removed.
Well, I concur, Jim, that drainage and maintenance agreements are unenforceable, but what other remedies do we have?
Well, I'd like to hear from Eric if he has any views on what we just said and the functionality of this.
I definitely agree with what Mike was saying with having it on the current location versus the uphill side. I definitely agree with that. We kind of came to the same conclusion even before we talked with each other. As far as the maintainability, the style trench is the standard trench that New Hampshire DES uses as their driveway fact sheet. We have seen this on other multiple driveways in subdivisions, similar situations, that I haven't heard of any maintenance issues where it's top stone. You know, people should, but when they mow their grass, hopefully they keep going to the other side, but it is tough to control that. It's private property. It's not like something would back up into the town road that we would then have an issue, so it definitely is kind of a hurdle to keep an eye on. But if the end goal is to protect the wetlands from this driveway, if it is approved, this is probably the best situation that I could see, is using there to protect it from the salt and contain the water. Does that help?
It does, it doesn't assure me though, I mean, because our choice is no, we won't let it, the driveway be there. We don't have to have it. I'm asking a question, I don't know the answer, but if the non-maintenance creates a material risk that we're trying to avoid, then I'm not sure this is sufficient. I don't know what more we would do, but I don't put a lot of faith in the maintenance agreements on private property to assure proper maintenance.
Phil?
Well, the other thing too is that this trench is 2.5 feet wide. So it's quite wide. It's not that it's a narrow trench, and if you look at the way that it's graded, it's got, the slope comes down to where it's flat. So you have that area, even if you had a few leaves over the top, you have 2.5 feet. And it's not graded, so the water is not running off the top of the leaves. You have 2.5 feet of flat area.
I guess Mike's response could have been no trees left, so you're not going to get many leaves, but he didn't say that, so I can't.
Well, I think also that new homes that are built in town today aren't little shacks that are out in the woods anymore. They're big houses these days. Their yards are generally landscaped and lawns and driveways, and people really do tend to take care of their properties. I don't think anybody's going to want to. I mean, the only time you really see those kind of leaf problems is when the old driveways that are kind of just winding between the trees that are just gravel driveways, they do have a lot of leaf buildup on both sides. But in an open field situation where you have a new driveway and lawn on both sides, they're going to probably maintain their lawn, which means they're going to maintain the edge of the driveway as well. So I'm not going to put words in Mike's mouth, but
May I ask Joanne a
Please,
question?
go ahead.
Do we have a standard private maintenance agreement for this type of project as opposed to the commercial site?
We have private maintenance agreements that we asked to put in the deed and as part of a condition of approval. I've never heard one about removing leaves. It's usually to clean out, culverts or whatever on private property. But I don't see why we couldn't. It's like you said, though, it's sort of unenforceable, but I think Tim is right. The houses that are being built right now are very large, and most of these people are having maintenance done for them.
the other thing too, Jim, is the drain only needs about, realistically, only needs about 2 inches of the edge of the driveway to accept the water. It doesn't need the whole 2.5 feet of surface to accept water. It really only goes in right at the edge of the pavement or the edge of the joint between the drain and it. So there's a very narrow band of inflow into the drain. It doesn't sheet across to the top of the drain and go in on the backside. So I agree that there's a possibility that non-maintenance could lead to a problem, but I don't know how we would regulate that.
The only thing I have seen in the past for, maybe not for leaves, but for other type things, is that like once or twice a year, they have to have it maintained and then they have to send a report to the Public Works Department.
We do that on a site plan, it's commercial, it's tough on the landowner. That's our remedy.
Correct.
Can't revoke subdivision for it. Houses
Right.
do.
Could we condition the possible approval that the developer is required to inform a prospective buyer of the maintenance requirement to maintain the,
Well, they'll all be required if they, or to be informed if it's in the deed.
Well-
It may be that's the best we can do is put a plan, deed, covenant or something.
I would put a note on the plan and have that same language in the deed. And make reference to the plan in the deed, that way they're married. So, I don't know, maybe you would know this, Jim, but when I get a title commitment now for an Alta survey, American Land Title Association survey, the amount of exceptions in the degree to which these banks and lawyers are coming up with stuff like this.
Blame the banks, not the lawyers, come on.
The lawyers that work for the
It's-
banks.
Banks and insurance companies. This would be minor. It is minor compared to everything else I see almost on a daily basis, the way everything is going.
I agree with that, yeah, which means nobody will ever read it, but maybe the best
Well,
we can do.
no, but if I believe that we, and I do mean we, because I've always been a conservationist, but we are doing our best to promote the protection of the resource that we can do. Obviously, if people are gonna ignore it, they're gonna ignore it, but I think that you've done your job and we've done ours to try to mitigate any potential harm.
Eric?
I'll throw a suggestion out there, since you guys are doing the placards along the wetland.
Yeah.
Could you do a similar placard saying some sort of small one, maintenance protocol, right on there, so the landscapers see it, the homeowner sees it?
We could do that in conjunction, I think, with the idea of a note on the plan that would be tied to the deed, so that we do have teeth down the road.
Yep.
In the event that there is a problem, you could go back to the landowner, whoever they may be, that, hey, it's in the title, it's in the deed. If you didn't do your due diligence, and you didn't read it, that's shame on you. So, both would be a great idea. I like the idea of something being,
It would have to be, and they would have to disclose that in the PNS, right?
They should.
so, is that a consensus of the board members, that something more than just, we hope the new owner cleans the drain, we should include it as a condition of approval?
Yes.
Okay. Any other board members have issues or questions?
Just a question. So the fire department raises a concern if there was a multifamily or structure being built, but I'm assuming the plan is for a single-family home?
I don't know what they want to build. We haven't shown any structures yet.
Because so what the fire department is saying is that if it's a two-family or multifamily home, you might want to have a wider driveway. So I don't know if that's something that we need to be concerned about.
I think that's in reference to NFPA standards, that once you go off over a certain amount of units, you have the wider standards and the turnaround at the end.
Let me ask you this question, Joanne, does that zone allow two-family homes?
What zone is this again? R1? Let me just double check here. R2, I think it's R2.
Because it'd be easy enough to condition a possible approval on the fact that this is for a single-family home.
Oh, it is
And if it
R1.
becomes a requirement for a duplex, then they have to come back to the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Be
is
easy.
the R1, so they do have municipal water. I think they need 3 acres or more.
Do you need what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
3 acres or more, she said.
Oh, okay.
Let me just double check.
R1 is 1 acre for two dwelling units.
Yeah, R1 is smaller than 3 acres.
1 acre, so it's,
6.
on page 39.
39? Did you say 39?
Yes, on my ordinance, which
Oh, no, on this one.
is dated
What does it say in the table of
Page
uses, Jim?
17.
Should I tell you that I was born in '83?
I don't believe it's coming. Yeah, I'm just looking at the table of dimensional regs. Well, whatever, I mean, I think we just say that if,
I think we condition a possible approval, this plan is for a single family, this approval is for a single family home only. Any change from that would require a return to the board from,
Single family only due to the width of the driveway.
due to the fire department's comments as well.
well, it's the driveway width.
Right. I don't see a lot of duplexes being built these days anyway.
I don't either. I don't either.
But it was a good point to bring up, Karen.
I'll find it right here, I've got it. I just had the wrong book, or wrong pages.
Maybe in Manchester,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not in the country too much. Or not in a setting like this, anyways.
Okay, R1. If you have either, you need 1 acre minimum lot size.
Yeah.
You can do a duplex, maximum number of dwelling units per buildable acre for duplex and multifamily, so you could do 2 duplexes.
That's a key word there, buildable acre, because they don't have a lot of buildable property on that site. There's a very small area which includes 4K and the building site, which is not.
That made it restricted.
Right, yeah.
That may restrict the duplex from being constructed on that site.
On the buildable acre, you can have
We can still condition the approval as such.
2 duplexes per buildable acre for duplex and multifamily.
Well, if no one disagrees, I'd like to have a conditional approval
Yeah.
also be that the possible approval of this plan would be only for a single-family home. Anything other than that would have to return to the planning board for
On lot 17-1.
from the single, yeah,
Only, right?
well, yeah, I guess we should say that one, because that's the driveway that's in question.
Right.
I mean, if they're within their rights to build on the other lots, then you can't condition it.
Right.
But this does have special circumstances, this particular lot that we're talking about.
I have a different question.
Yeah.
Jim, on the plan, down at the bottom, there's 2 existing roadside swales needed. Who does that? Is that an obligation or an action that the applicant is going to take?
Yes.
It's in
That was a request that I made, that when, it would be part of the driveway permit process, because in order to install that culvert, the depth quite isn't there to make the grades. So just making sure that they have 1 foot of cover over their driveway culvert and to tune everything to get it where it needs to go.
Do we need to say that as a condition to make it clear who's doing it, or is the plan note sufficient to?
I think the driveway permit states it, and that's a DPW function.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be comfortable handling a driveway permit.
So Joanne, could you, while we're talking about conditions of approval, could you go over the conditions of approval for this site with the board members at this time?
Sure. So number 1 is to provide a copy of the digital files, AutoCAD. Number 2 is written certification that all documentation of bounds have been set in accordance with the plan. Number 3 is a certified foundation and well location plan will be required for each new lot. Number 4, show proposed water services to lot 33-17-1. Label is correctly shown, but the service line location is missing on sheet 2 and 3. Number 5, add a scale bar to the proposed driveway trench drain plan. Number 6, extend the silt fence around the building area to protect the wetland area. Provide silt fence installation detail and any other erosion control details to be used. Number 7, all angle points along the town's right-of-way shall have a granite marker installed. All missing, damaged, or obliterated prior or existing monumentation shall be replaced with monuments of like kind. if referred to in prior deeds and title records. A bound appears to be missing on the southwest corner of lot 3317-1 near the bridge. Please add bound to be set on the plan. And then you mentioned that you'd like to include a note on the plan in the deed about maintaining the trench drain 2 times per year. And add placards to the trench drain area. What would the placards say?
I think they're gonna be hard to position myself. What are you gonna do, put them in the middle of the guy's lawn?
Probably your only option, yeah.
I think that if we just do the deed thing, I think the placards, because you know what's gonna happen after you put all the placards in? The guy's gonna go out there to mow his lawn, he's gonna pull them all out and throw them away. So it actually is pointless for us to require that they put them in.
No.
Unless you feel it covers us, then they can put them in as part of an approval, and whatever happens to them after is out of our hands.
I'm more concerned about we have that as a condition, I don't know if it's on the plan, that the applicant last time described the placards marking the wetland setback area, which I thought they had agreed to. I don't see it here, but I do want those. I think you're right, they may be taken out, but I think we at least should put them in to put people on notice. I'm less concerned about the driveway itself for the reasons you said, but since the applicant had described in detail the placards on the wetland delineation. We should
Speaking of those, Joanne, that's not a condition of approval. I added that as number 8. The wetlands placards are not on a condition of
Okay, I
approval.
just added it here.
Okay.
And then the last one was, for lot 17-1, limit to a single-family home unless they return to the board for further approval.
I would just ask that you consider an amendment to the monument that is missing at the bridge. There was a monument there, the town ripped it out when they put that bridge in. And I don't know that we can get a granite bound in. It may be a pin, maybe a drill hole in concrete. I'm pretty sure we're not gonna get it bound in. So I would ask you to let us have the leeway to set it, and just show them the plans, so that we can get in.
All right, so so where you have please add a bound, you're requesting to strike the word bound and
Add the word
insert iron pin or drill hole or something to that effect?
Suitable monument.
Right, suitable monument.
Can we change that last, I agree with Michael, we don't care. The last sentence shouldn't say please add, it's an requirement. So take out the please, we're not requesting.
So add appropriate
Yeah, bound. And then,
lot corner marker.
yeah, and take out the please, because we're not requesting it.
And show on plan, and identify on plan.
The word monument is better than bound.
So I wrote here, add appropriate lot corner marker and identify on the plan.
Change the marker to monument. That's the current.
Monument, of iron pin, a monument?
Yes.
Yes,
It is classified as a monument.
Yeah.
It's-
And a drill hole is classified as a monument.
technically, the word monument is in the statutes.
So add a corner monument.
It's more of an umbrella term for all of the
Good, I didn't realize
ways
it.
you can put it.
I always think of monuments as granite bounds myself.
It's actually in the RSA's.
Okay. So we've changed, the last sentence on number 7. We've added wetlands placards at, where are they supposed to be located at? The the edge of the inner 50-foot?
Outer 100 foot.
Yeah, but that's in the middle of the driveway.
I think that we should have the placards start, they're like 10 feet off the driveway, and run parallel to where the silt fence is shown, till it hits the 100-foot line, and then follow the 100-foot line
Okay.
the rest of the way around.
Okay, so
And I'll show them on the plans.
He'll show that on the plan, and can we make that, people all agree that would be an administrative decision to see that on the plan and approve it?
Absolutely.
Okay. We've also added trench drain note with the placards for the trench drain, and we've also making a note that the single-family home, only with this approval for 17-1, and any future decision on making it other than a single-family home requires they come back to the board. Last question I have, we have number 3 is well location plan. Mike, do any of these well radiuses cross into the
There are no wells, it's on,
city water? Thank you. So we don't need well location plan.
No,
So that we can strike well location plan. Okay, and right below it is show proposed water services, so I guess I didn't read the next one down.
So, can I ask a question?
Please.
For Eric? So, what do you think the risk is to the wetlands in general with the plan before us?
I'm not a wetland scientist. By seeing what was provided to us, I definitely think that the plans in front of us is your best option to protect it if the driveway is proposed as planned. But I'm not certified for wetlands or anything like that, so, but based on the data provided, it seems like it's protected.
Karen, when DES put out their new, I guess they're called mandates or suggestions, I don't know which it is, they don't want us to approve for roads, construction, catch and drain systems anymore. Because catch and drain systems, catch basins and pipes, and then an outlet pipe concentrate the pollutants at a single exit point
Sure,
of the
yeah.
system. They want grassy swales, because grassy swales cleanse
Right.
stormwater. So, you know, we are not discharging the water any particular spot here, it's just going into the drain, being recharged into the ground. And in the unlikely event that it ever came over the top, which is highly unlikely, you've got all that grass there to cleanse with as well. Jim?
I'm looking at section 13.4.4, the last sentence, that we have to make a finding that the functions, values, and conditions of the wetland resources will not be compromised as a result of the proposed project. I just asked Mike, knowing he's not a wetland scientist, but can he make that statement as a matter of fact based on the information so that we can then base a finding on their representation?
yes, I am not a certified wetland scientist, however, I am a licensed septic system designer, and I am permitted by the state to delineate wetlands for septic in subdivisions that are under 5 acres. I've delineated hundreds and hundreds of acres of wetlands, and the situation you have here, you do have the resource of the brook, you do have a wetlands, but you have a very heavily vegetated buffer, a natural buffer between the driveway and the wetlands. And with this trench drain and it being almost across a flat driveway, what we're proposing adequately protects the resource, in my mind, without hesitation.
Yeah, the verb form is will not be compromised, so.
I do not believe that the resource will be compromised in any way, shape, manner, or form.
Was that addressed in the TF Moran report provided by Jason? Did he discuss that in his report by any chance?
No, he was doing just drainage.
Okay,
We
right.
do have that in Alden's report.
Yeah, but that was before we had this proposal,
Yeah.
so I wanted
Yeah.
to have him put my
Yep.
in the record that it still applies.
Yeah, I know. Thank you for reminding
So
me.
there's 2 actions that you would need to take. One is for the waiver of the 50-foot, the relief of the 50-foot buffer requirement, and then the other is for the lot line adjustment / subdivision.
Okay. So before we move on to those items, anybody else have anything else for the applicant or the town engineer representative tonight, or staff? You guys can stay right where you are. So at this point, as I've been reminded by Phil, I'm going to open the public hearing. If there's any public comment on this application, please come forward and have your speak. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Do we have any outstanding issues, board members, or are we ready to act on the two items that Joanne has brought forth? All right, Joanne, so give us the first action we need to take. Give us the information on that.
So the first one would be to vote on the request for relief of the outer 50-foot wetland surface water setback.
Do we need any verbal certifications other than what we've received this evening for that request? Statements in fact, like a conditional use permit or anything to that effect?
No, it's just the waiver for relief.
Jim?
Sure, I'll make a motion that based upon the report from the certified wetland scientist and the applicant's representations in light of the proposed revision to the plan shown by us, the, what do you call this, Mike, trench drain?
Yes.
The trench drain, and after considering the Conservation Commission comments, that we find that the functions, values, and conditions of the wetland resource will not be compromised as a result of the proposed project. In accordance to section 13.3.4, we allow relief from the outer 50 feet of the wetland buffer.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Phil has seconded. Any discussion on Jim's motion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those favor of granting them relief for the outer 50-foot wetland setback, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passed. And the second item, Joanne?
And the second item is approval of the lot line adjustment and the subdivision plan as presented. I'm sorry, not as presented, with the conditions that you just reviewed. There's
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion with the conditions that we, as amended, as written 1 through 7, and the, how many additional ones?
There's three more.
3 more
10 conditions.
10 conditions total.
that Gail has already written down, I hope, because I don't remember them.
I'll get it. If I don't have it, I'll get it.
I'll second it.
Also seconded by Phil Devanza. So we have an motion to approve the lot line adjustment and the subdivision plan with the 10 conditions that are attached to lot 17-1, correct? Yes. Is that 17-1? Yeah, 17-1. Any discussion on the motion? We have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion on the motion, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Anything else relevant to this application, Joanne?
No, I think we're good.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric, too.
I'm sorry?
Thank you, Eric.
Yes.
Thank you, Eric, for coming in.
In his fashionable shirt.
We're gonna be starting some survey work at the Greg's substation soon,
Okay,
so when I have the crew come over, I'll take care of that problem.
excellent, thank you.
Thank you, have a great night.
Good night, Mike.
Good night.
Appreciate the time.
What's that street with that guy submitted today?
Does any other board member have any other business for this board tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Wait a minute.
I just wanted to say that
Joanne was my next question.
our next meeting is October 28th. We have strategic contracting coming back in for the continuation of the Terrell Hill Road subdivision. I have not heard anything from the fire department on that one, so I don't know if they've ever talked, or I'll follow up with that.
So can I stop you for right there in your tracks for 30 seconds? Selectman Lemay, could you please convey to the fire department upper echelon that we are seeking comment on this, and we would appreciate it if they have comment to send it to planning department.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for your
What
assistance.
was the water, what was that, Joanne? I got,
9, map 9, lots 15, 16.
okay,
It's on Terrell Hill Road.
okay.
And then we have one more application for complications with a driveway permit on Mass Road
Upcoming meeting?
for the 28th.
Can you very briefly tell us about it, so if one of us go look at it prior to the meeting, we know where it is?
Eric's looking up the side street. It's on the corner of Mast Road, and he'll tell us in a minute what's the side street. But the applicant owns a house, and the driveway is on the side street. And he purchased, this was one of Joe Boschman's development, I don't know, a year or so ago. And one of the conditions that they were supposed to do was tear down a barn as well as do some work on the driveway, because the driveway at that time was in really poor shape. That didn't quite happen, so these people now own the house, the garage is gone, and Joe did put up a fence for them.
Was it a
So
condition of approval on our plan?
the plan itself showed the driveway as being smaller than it is, as well as the 10-foot setback between the property line and the driveway as being unpaved. But these people said that they didn't realize that they needed a driveway permit because it was already somewhat of a paved driveway at one time. It was, some cement was in there, it was very old. And so they went and they paved up to the fence, which is too close to the property line. So they're coming in to ask for some waivers, and Eric and I have been working with the owner, trying to help him through the application. And so he's basically coming in for some waivers and a waiver of an amended subdivision plan.
I disagree with this whole procedure. I think we need to have a site plan, a complete new review, amended site plan, if we want to do this. We do these plans and we set these conditions for reasons. People buy a property, they want to come in, they want to change it. You can't just come in and ask for a waiver because they don't like it. I think we have to have an amended site plan. I don't want to start this,
It's a subdivision.
then we need an amended subdivision plan, because I don't want to approve a subdivision with conditions and have people ignore them and come in and ask for, well, geez, could we just do this? I'm sorry, that's my opinion. We spend so much time on these projects because we think we have to do something right. To have someone come in and ask for a waiver for something, I disagree with that theory. I don't know how the other board members feel.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Phil.
When you were describing it, you mentioned something about what was removed or something. You said something was smaller than what it was.
So the driveway on the subdivision plan for Joe Boschman, when he was subdividing the property, showed the proper separation of 10 feet and showed the driveway as, how wide was it?
It was shown on the
22?
approved plan as 20.5 feet at the right-of-way line, and I think it was 22 at the edge of
And
pavement.
22 is the requirement. But
The
one.
allowed or the requirement?
Allowed.
It's allowed.
Right,
So
not
at-
requirement.
Measured at the right-of-way line is 22 feet at the right-of-way, and then you're allowed 5-foot flares off of that.
Right.
Is there an error someplace?
No, so when this person purchased the property, after the plan was approved, this person purchased the property, and at that time, they had an agreement, and I guess it was in the purchase and sale, that Boschman would remove the garage, which I believe he did.
He did.
And put up a fence, so.
Which he did.
Which he did, he put up a
Okay.
fence.
And, so one thing, sorry,
Okay.
John, and also saw cut the concrete that encroached in that 10-foot setback because the new lot line that was created in the adjustment, force was right up the driveway, so you had to remove that section of driveway.
Did that happen?
The driveway modification permit was pulled by Boschman, but it was never finalized, so I have no confirmation of
Okay.
if it
So
actually
the
did.
new owner has a picture that he says the cement was dug up and laid down to make the driveway wider than 22 feet. So then he went and paved the whole thing with asphalt.
Mm.
And instead of leaving that 10-foot separation, they paved right up to the fence,
Overpaid.
overpaved. So he's saying he didn't realize he needed a driveway
Well, we're
permit.
very sorry they didn't know that, but this is do it and beg forgiveness time, and I'm not in favor of this.
Well,
personally.
he's already submitted the application, I mean,
We
people
we
can
we
submit
don't have to
for
accept
what
it.
they're asking for, but if, you know, if you're not gonna hear it, then,
Well, this is a board decision, it's not my decision.
What is the process for having them, remove the pavement that they just installed?
That's DPW.
Yeah.
They're the ones responsible for the issuing of driveway permits, and it's their authority on the edge of the road. Jim, Karen, are you finished?
Yeah.
Good.
What's the remedy we can grant? It's a zoning requirement.
so
Can we
it's
waive?
part of the development regs.
Are we entitled to waive? It's in the regs, it's not in the zoning?
No. So he's asking two things. He's asking, he wants to keep the full pavement. He said if he can't keep the full pavement, he would cut back 10 feet of it
So,
and put down loam and seed.
yeah. So what he's requesting, full width as it currently sits with the new pavement, is 38.5 feet at the right-of-way line and 42.5 feet along the edge of pavement because there's a slight flare on one side. So the two waivers that we're going for that is the 22 feet at the right-of-way line and also the 10 feet off the edge of pavement. In addition to that, you know, Penardville's very close. He's also within 40 feet of another permitted driveway on the adjacent lot, which he
There you
also
go.
owns. So that would be a conditional use permit, I believe.
Right, but he was going to rectify that with his new driveway permit.
When I went out there and met with him again, he was unable to. So he needs all three.
Okay, well, he
So-
didn't apply for that today. He only applied for the two waivers. So then we can tell him he has to go back to the drawing board.
Jim?
I guess we can't say to somebody you can't apply.
Oh, no, I'm not saying they can't apply, but I think it's a waste of time.
I share your feeling as to whether or
Yeah.
not we grant it, but that's, we have to look at it. It's gonna-
We can look at anything you want, as a
But
board.
now that he didn't include that conditional use permit, his application.
That's a
doesn't-
request for a conditional use permit at that point?
Yeah, because he doesn't meet the 40 feet.
So, what's the side street?
The actual house is at 640 Mass Road.
Okay.
The driveway itself is on Larch Street.
I remember that, I remember. the
Large
problem.
Street, that's,
Yeah.
Jim,
that's, yes, Jim.
I don't think we should run with this until it's before us, because we're
Fine.
prejudging. I think
I agree.
we beat it enough. So we
Even,
should stop.
I think we should leave everything out of it until the application is submitted.
If, I can look at the application again tomorrow, but I know I looked at it today and the conditional use.
Well, I suggest you contact the applicant, tell them about the conditional use permit that's not here.
So he said he can't do that.
I met with them and we took measurements for a driveway that would meet on the adjacent lot, because he also owns the adjacent lot that now had a previously permitted driveway that's now being shifted to try and make the requirement work, but was unable to.
If, in one
It's very complex.
follow-up question, if you cut back the,
I don't
No, we're
we
discussing,
can't.
this is hypothetical,
Yeah,
let's
we
not,
can't
let's
do
not
that.
talk
We have
about
to
that.
let them present and have a hearing on it. We
But
can't-
I was gonna suggest to Joanne, if it's in your staff opinion needs a conditional use permit, you need to advise him of that before he shows up for the meeting and finds out that we've all wasted our time because he didn't
Well, I
fill in.
won't put him on the agenda if that's the case, but
Right.
I'll look at it again, but he didn't drop it off, his wife did, so I didn't get to really ask him
Okay.
anything.
Yeah.
Good. All right, this topic is closed.
Motion to adjourn?
Phil already made it. Did you second it?
Only if I can play with this excavator, yes.
Okay, you and Phil can work that out later. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you. 8 o'clock we did.